The massive space station hung in the void like a crystal flower. Its name was Concordia, and it served as the neutral meeting place for the galaxy's most important discussions. Today, it hosted what many believed would be the final conversation between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. Admiral Sarah Chen walked through the station's gleaming corridors. Her simple black uniform looked plain next to the elaborate robes and armor worn by the alien delegates she passed. Some had scales that shifted color with their emotions. Others floated in mechanical suits filled with exotic gases. A few looked almost human, except for their silver eyes or too many fingers. They all stared at her as she passed. She could feel their thoughts. Here was the representative of the species that had somehow managed to fight the entire galaxy to a standstill. Here was the human who might decide whether this war would continue or end. Chen reached the main conference hall. The room was enormous, built to accommodate beings of many different sizes and environmental needs. At the center sat a circular table made from a single piece of crystallized starlight. 12 chairs surrounded it, 11 occupied by the most powerful beings in known space. Ambassador Zethkar of the Vorthak rose as Chen entered. His body was made of living crystal, each facet catching and reflecting the room's soft light. When he spoke, his voice rang like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Admiral Chen," he said, "thank you for coming. Please, take your seat." Chen nodded and sat in the single empty chair. It had been made specifically for human anatomy, one of the few concessions the aliens had made. She pulled out a small notebook and pen from her jacket pocket. Several delegates made sounds that might have been laughter. "Still using primitive tools, I see," commented Ambassador Vexhai of the Mordanian Empire. Her snake-like body coiled in her specialized chair, 6 arms gesturing dismissively. How charmingly backward. Chen simply opened her notebook and waited. She had learned long ago that patience was often humanity's greatest weapon. Zethkar activated a holographic display above the table. Star charts appeared, showing the current state of the war. Red zones marked areas of human control. They had grown significantly in the past 3 years. "Let us begin with facts," Zethkar said. 3 years ago, humanity emerged from what we believed was primitive isolation. You had barely achieved faster than light travel. Your technology was centuries behind ours. Your population numbered only 8 billion across a handful of worlds. He gestured, and the display zoomed in on various battle sites. Yet somehow, you have managed to destroy our outer colonies. You have captured our supply lines. You have made our people afraid to sleep at night. How do you explain this? Chen made a note in her book. "We are resourceful," she said simply. This time, the alien laughter was more obvious. Ambassador Krelthok of the asteroid miners slammed one of his 4 fists on the table. His rocky hide grated against itself as he moved. "Resourceful?" he roared. "You are pests. Clever pests, yes, but still pests. You bite and run and hide like cowards. You have no honor in battle." "Honor is a luxury," Chen replied, still writing. "We prefer to win." General Cox Moon of the Hive Collective leaned forward. Her insect-like features were impossible for humans to read, but her tone carried clear irritation. "Your winning streak ends today, human. We offer you terms, accept them, and your species continues to exist. Refuse, and we will crush every human, world into dust." Chen looked up from her notebook. "I'm listening." Zethkar activated another display. This one showed the Sol system with Earth highlighted in blue. "These are our requirements," he began. "First, immediate cessation of all human military activities. Your ships will power down their weapons and return to human space. Second, complete withdrawal of all human forces to the Sol system. You will not leave your home system without permission. Third, acceptance of hegemony oversight. Our governors will manage human affairs to ensure compliance." The display changed to show population, numbers, trillions of aliens across thousands of worlds, 8 billion humans on a dozen planets. Fourth, war reparations. You will provide resources and labor to repair the damage you have caused. Fifth, surrender of all human military leaders for trial and punishment. Sixth, dismantling of your weapons. Manufacturing capability. Chen continued taking notes. The scratching of her pen on paper was the only sound in the vast chamber. And finally, Zethkar concluded, humanity will provide a formal apology to all affected species and accept status as a protectorate under hegemony rule. He sat back down, his crystal body chiming softly. "These terms are generous, considering your crimes. We could simply exterminate your species. Our combined fleets outnumber yours by more than 10,000 to 1. Our technology makes your weapons look like sharp sticks. Your total population could fit into one of our smaller cities. Ambassador Silthis of the Aquatic Domains spoke. Next. Her translator made her watery voice sound almost human. We are being merciful because we recognize that you are young. Your species has potential if properly guided. Accept these terms, and humanity might survive long enough to mature. Chen closed her notebook and placed her pen beside it. She looked around the table, meeting the eyes or optical sensors or whatever served as eyes for each delegate. These are your final terms, she asked. They are, Zethkar confirmed. We expect your answer within 1 standard day. Use that time to contact your leaders, make them understand that this is their only chance. Chen stood up. I will need to consult with Earth, as you suggest. 24 hours should be sufficient. He walked toward the exit, then paused and turned back. One question, if I may. What makes you so certain that humanity will accept these terms? General Coxmoon's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among her species. Simple mathematics, human. We have calculated every possible scenario. Your species cannot win. You lack the numbers, the technology, and the industrial capacity. Fighting us is like an insect declaring war in a thunderstorm. Chen nodded thoughtfully. Mathematics. Yes, I suppose that would seem logical to you. She made one more note in her book. I will have our answer for you tomorrow. As she left the chamber, Chen could hear the aliens beginning to discuss among themselves. Their various languages created a symphony of clicks, whistles, harmonics, and vibrations. She understood more of it than they knew, but she kept walking. The corridors of Concordia seemed different now. The alien delegates she passed looked more confident, more relaxed. They believed the war was essentially over. All that remained was for humanity to formally surrender. Chen reached her quarters and sealed the door behind her. She activated her communications array and opened a channel to Earth. The transmission would take several hours to reach home, even with the fastest quantum entanglement systems. This is Admiral Chen, she began recording. The hegemony has presented their terms. They are, as expected, completely unacceptable. Please confirm that all preparations are complete. I will deliver our response tomorrow. She ended the transmission and sat on her bed. Through the small porthole she could see the stars. Somewhere out there, trillions of aliens slept peacefully, confident that they had solved their human problem. They believed tomorrow would bring surrender and the end of humanity's brief, violent emergence onto the galactic stage. Chen allowed herself a small smile as she prepared for sleep. Tomorrow would indeed bring an end to one phase of this conflict. But not the end her hosts expected. The next morning, Chen returned to the conference hall exactly on time. The alien delegates were already seated, their body language suggesting confidence and satisfaction. They had spent the night discussing how to divide up human territory. Once the surrender was formalized, Zethkar's crystal form caught the morning light streaming through the station's transparent sections. Admiral Chen, he said, his voice carrying the musical quality of success. I trust you had productive communications with your leaders? Chen sat down and opened her notebook to a fresh page. Very productive, thank you. She uncapped her pen and wrote the date at the top of the page, her movements calm and deliberate. Excellent, said Ambassador Vexhai, her 6 arms weaving through the air in what Chen recognized as a gesture of anticipation. Then you are prepared to accept our terms? I am prepared to deliver humanity's official response, Chen replied, continuing to write in her notebook. The aliens exchanged what passed for glances among their various species. Their intelligence networks had been monitoring human communications throughout the night. What they had seen filled them with satisfaction. General Coxmoon clicked her mandibles together. Our intelligence services intercepted numerous transmissions from Earth. Your leaders seemed quite distressed. Emergency sessions, military commanders entering bunkers, frantic debates. Exactly what we expected when an inferior species finally faces reality. Chen nodded without looking up from her writing. Earth's government takes important decisions very seriously. As they should, chuckled Ambassador Krelthok, his rocky hide grinding against his chair. The survival of their species hangs in the balance. Chen finished writing and looked up at the assembled delegates. 12 of the galaxy's most powerful beings stared back at her, confident in their victory. Their combined civilizations controlled 90% of known space. Their populations numbered in the trillions. Their technology was centuries ahead of humanity's. The Terran Republic has carefully considered your generous offer, Chen began, her voice carrying the same calm tone she had used the day before. Ambassador Silthias leaned forward in her water-filled suit, bubbles escaping as she moved. And? We respectfully decline. The silence that followed lasted nearly 10 seconds. Then Ambassador Vexhai made a sound that her translator rendered as confused laughter. Decline? She repeated. You decline? Did you not understand the terms? Did your primitive communication systems fail to convey the reality of your situation? Chen turned to a new page in her notebook. The terms were quite clear. Humanity chooses to reject them. General Coxmoon's compound eyes fixed on Chen with laser-like intensity. You cannot be serious. No species is that foolish. You are bluffing. I never bluff, Chen said, making another note. Instead, humanity presents counterterms. The alien. Delegates looked at each other in what could only be described as bewilderment. Zethkar's crystal body actually shifted color, a sign of extreme confusion among his people. Counterterms, he managed. What possible terms could you offer? Chen stood up, leaving her notebook open on the table. The Terran Republic demands the immediate withdrawal of all hegemony military forces from any system containing human populations. You have 72 hours to comply. The chamber erupted, not in anger, but in laughter. The sound was incredible. Crystal chimes mixing with insectoid clicking, aquatic bubbling blending with mineral grinding. Ambassador Krelthok laughed, so hard that small rocks fell from his hide. 72 hours, wheezed Ambassador Vexhai between fits of laughter. Oh, this is rich. The rabbits are demanding that the wolves leave the forest. General Coxmoon tried to speak but could only produce clicking sounds as her entire body shook with mirth. Ambassador Silthis was laughing so hard that her aquatic suit's filtration system struggled to keep up with the bubbles. Even the normally composed Zethkar resonated with harmonics that indicated deep amusement. Admiral Chen, he said when he could finally speak, perhaps the stress of your position has affected your judgment. Let me remind you of some basic facts. He activated the holographic display, showing comparative population numbers. 12,400,000,000,000 hegemony citizens versus 8 billion humans. That is a ratio of approximately 1,500 to 1. The display changed to show military assets. 7,000 capital ships, 200,000 support vessels, 48,000 military installations. Your entire fleet consists of perhaps 200 ships. More numbers appeared. Industrial capacity, technological advancement, territorial control. In every measurable category, humanity represents less than 1% of hegemony capability. You are asking us to fear an ant colony. Chen sat back down and returned to her writing. Mathematics can be deceiving, she said calmly. Not when the numbers are this stark, replied Ambassador Vexhai, her amusement fading into irritation. What you propose is not negotiation. It is fantasy. Perhaps you misunderstood our position, suggested Ambassador Silthis. We are not negotiating between equals. We are offering terms to a conquered people. Your only choice is between comfortable, slavery, and complete extinction. Chen looked up from her notebook. To demonstrate our commitment to our terms, we offer a proof of concept. The laughter stopped. The aliens suddenly focused their complete attention on the humans sitting calmly at their table. Proof of concept? Zethkar asked carefully. Chen reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device. It looked like nothing more than a basic human communication unit, primitive compared to the technology surrounding them. This device is connected to our monitoring systems, she explained, setting it on the table. It will allow you to observe our demonstration in real time. The device projected a simple hologram showing a star system. The aliens recognized it immediately. Kepler 442, home to the hegemony's largest military shipyard. Kepler 442, Chen said conversationally as if discussing the weather. A G5 V-class star, very stable. Stellar engineers classify it as having approximately 3 billion years of main sequence life remaining. She checked her simple wristwatch, another primitive human affectation that had amused the delegates. Current time is 1422, standard galactic. The Kepler 442 system contains approximately 12 million hegemony personnel and represents 300 years of accumulated military infrastructure. The aliens stared at the hologram showing normal system activity. Massive orbital platforms, constructed warships, transport vessels moved between planets. Defense networks maintained constant vigilance. At exactly 1425, Chen continued, her voice never changing from its conversational tone. Kepler 442's star will undergo catastrophic helium flash, rendering the entire system uninhabitable. Ambassador Vexhi's scales shifted to deep red, a sign of alarm among her species. That is impossible. Stellar engineering on that scale requires technology millennia beyond your capability. More importantly, added Zethkar, his crystal form beginning to resonate with nervous energy, such modifications would take centuries to implement. We would have detected any attempt to interfere with the star. Chen made another note in her book. Would you? General Coxmoon was frantically activating her own communication systems trying to contact Kepler 442. This is an elaborate bluff. No species has the capability to trigger stellar events on command. Chen looked at her watch again. 14:24. 1 minute remaining. The chamber fell silent except for the various breathing and life support systems. Every alien delegate stared at the hologram showing peaceful activity in the Kepler 442 system. Chen counted down the final seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At exactly 14:25, long-range sensors confirmed the impossible. Kepler 442's star convulsed, its outer layers beginning to expand at tremendous speed. The careful orbital dance of planets and stations turned into chaos as gravitational fields shifted. Emergency broadcasts filled the communication channels as 12 million beings tried to escape the expanding stellar envelope. The hologram showed it all in terrible detail. Within minutes, 3 centuries of hegemony military construction was consumed by superheated plasma expanding at a significant fraction of light speed. Chen closed her notebook and stood up. 72 hours, she repeated quietly. I suggest you use the time wisely. The silence in the chamber stretched on as the delegates stared at the holographic display. Where moments before had shown a thriving star system, now there was only an expanding shell of superheated gas. 12 million lives gone in an instant. 300 years of military construction erased as if it had never existed. Ambassador Zethkar was the first to speak, his crystal form vibrating with frequencies that indicated deep shock. How? The single word came out as barely a whisper. Chen remained standing, her notebook tucked under one arm. Her expression was pleasant, almost maternal, like a teacher addressing students who had finally grasped a difficult concept. You have made a fundamental error in your assessment of our species, she said calmly. You have confused primitive with backward and young with weak. General Coxmoon's compound eyes were still fixed on the display, watching the expanding wave of destruction. The energy requirements alone, it should be impossible. Your entire civilization lacks the power output to trigger a stellar event. Humanity has been preparing for this conversation for quite some time, Chen continued, ignoring the interruption. She walked slowly around the table, her simple black shoes clicking softly on the crystalline floor. Ambassador Vexhi's 6 arms writhed in agitation, her scales shifting through colors that indicated confusion and fear. Preparing? You only achieved faster-than-light travel 30 years ago. We have records of your first crude FTL experiments. Chen paused behind Vexhi's chair. You have records of what we allowed you to see. Tell me, Ambassador, what do you know about humanity's first contact with galactic civilization? Standard historical record, Zethkar replied, his voice regaining some composure. 67 years ago, our deep space monitors detected primitive radio transmissions from your system. First contact protocols were initiated. Your species was classified as pre-FTL, suitable for eventual uplift and integration. Chen nodded approvingly. And when did you actually make contact? 30 years ago, when you achieved rudimentary FTL capability. Standard procedure. We waited until you demonstrated readiness for galactic society. Except, Chen said, continuing her circuit around the table. Humanity has been aware of galactic civilization for over 2 centuries. The words hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. Ambassador Silthis's aquatic suit bubbled frantically as her breathing rate increased. That is impossible. Our monitoring systems are comprehensive. Chen reached her original seat, but remained standing. In 1847, human astronomers detected artificial radiation signatures from the Centauri system. By 1876, we had cracked your basic communication protocols. By 1903, we had identified major trade routes and political structures. She opened her notebook and flipped through several pages. Would you like to know what humanity learned during those 2 centuries of observation? Without waiting for an answer, she continued. We learned that galactic civilization was built on the assumption of technological superiority, determining Political power. We learned that species were classified and treated according to their perceived advancement. We learned that primitive worlds were considered suitable for exploitation and control. General Coxmoon finally tore her attention away from the holographic destruction. Even if true observation does not grant the capability to destroy stars, the technology required was developed over the course of 200 years, Chen interrupted smoothly. While you believed you were dealing with a species that had achieved FTL travel mere decades ago, humanity had actually been secretly infiltrating galactic society since the 1800s. The implications began to dawn on the delegates. Ambassador were. Krelthok's rocky hide scraped against itself as he shifted uncomfortably. Infiltrating, what do you mean? Chen flipped to another page in her notebook. Operation Prometheus began in 1923. The first human agents were surgically and genetically modified to pass as various alien species. They established identities, built careers, started families. Some of their descendants are probably sitting in this room's support staff right now. Ambassador Vexahai's scales went completely white, a sign of shock among her people. That would mean generations of deep cover agents. Currently, we estimate approximately 40,000 human agents, and their descendants operating throughout hegemony space, Chen confirmed. They hold positions in governments, militaries, research institutions, and manufacturing facilities. Some have reached very high levels of authority. She turned several more pages. For example, the quantum-engineered matter converters that were installed in every major star in hegemony space. Those required access to stellar engineering facilities, shipping networks, and installation teams. Such access could only be gained through long-term infiltration. Zethkar's entire crystalline body shifted color rapidly, cycling through the spectrum as he processed the information. Every major star? Every major star, Chen confirmed. Population centers, military installations, industrial systems, government capitals. Each one seeded with devices that can trigger catastrophic stellar events on command. The chamber filled with the sounds of alien panic. Breathing apparatus worked overtime. Translation systems struggled to keep up with rapid exchanges in dozens of languages. Several delegates were frantically trying to contact their homeworlds. Please don't attempt to contact your home systems to warn them, Chen said pleasantly. We have temporarily suspended your communications. Standard security. Protocol during sensitive negotiations. General Coxmoon slammed multiple fists on the table. You are talking about genocide on an unprecedented scale. Trillions of innocent lives. Chen's expression didn't change. Are we? Let me ask you something, General. What were your plans for humanity if we had refused your terms? The Hive Collective's military leader fell silent. The complete extermination of our species. Chen answered her own question. Every man, woman, and child. 8 billion lives snuffed out because we had the audacity to defend ourselves. But when we demonstrate the ability to respond in kind, suddenly the conversation becomes about innocent lives and unprecedented genocide. She closed her notebook with a soft snap. Humanity learned something important during our 2 centuries of observation. The galaxy respects only one thing: superior firepower. You don't negotiate with species you consider inferior. You dictate terms to them. Ambassador Silthis finally found her voice. But the scale? You could destroy entire civilizations. Yes, Chen agreed simply. Just as you planned to destroy ours. The only difference is capability. You assumed you had it and we didn't. You were wrong. Zethkar struggled to maintain diplomatic composure. Even assuming everything you claim is true, surely there must be some middle ground. Some way to resolve this without the threat of mutual annihilation. Chen walked back to her chair and sat down, reopening her notebook to a fresh page. There is. Accept our terms. Withdraw your military forces from systems containing human populations. Acknowledge humanity's right to exist and expand without interference. And if we refuse? Asked Ambassador Vexhai, though her voice suggested she already knew the answer. Chen looked at her wristwatch. The 72-hour deadline remains in effect. At the end of that period, if hegemony forces have not withdrawn as demanded, we will begin demonstrating our commitment to enforcement. More stars, General Coxmoon said flatly. Selected carefully for maximum psychological impact, Chen confirmed. Capital systems first, then major population centers, then military installations. We have run extensive computer models to determine the optimal sequence for achieving compliance while minimizing overall casualties. She made a note in her book. Of course, the casualties would still number in the trillions, but as you said yesterday, mathematics is mathematics. Sometimes unpleasant decisions must be made for the greater good. The aliens sat in stunned silence, processing the complete reversal of their situation. An hour ago, they had been dictating terms to a conquered species. Now they found themselves facing an enemy that could apparently destroy them at will. Chen stood up again and walked toward the exit. I suggest you use the remaining 71 hours wisely. Contact your governments. Explain the situation. Begin withdrawal preparations. She paused at the doorway and turned back. Oh, and one more thing. Don't assume this is a bluff simply because the scale seems impossible. Humanity didn't survive by making empty threats. We survived by making our enemies too terrified to test us. The hours that followed Chen's departure were unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The confident delegates who had arrived to accept humanity's surrender found themselves scrambling to prevent the collapse of civilization itself. Zethkar stood at the center of the conference chamber, his crystalline form flickering through colors that had no names in most languages. Around him, the other delegates argued, pleaded, and calculated with desperate intensity. We need confirmation, insisted General Coxmoon, her compound eyes reflecting the holographic displays that showed continued stellar destruction at Kepler 442. Independent verification that they can actually do what they claim. Ambassador Vexhi's 6 arms moved in frantic patterns as she processed data streams from across the galaxy. Our deep space monitors are detecting quantum signatures near 17 major stars. Signatures that match the energy patterns recorded at Kepler 442 just before the stellar event. 17 systems, repeated Ambassador Krelthok, his rocky hide grinding with stress. That includes New Vorthak, the aquatic domain capital, and 3 hive collective breeding worlds. The implications were staggering. If humanity could trigger stellar events at will, they had effectively placed a gun to the head of galactic civilization. Every major population center sat next to a potential weapon. Zethkar activated his emergency communication protocols, only to be met with static. Still nothing. They have maintained the communication blackout for over 6 hours now. How is that even possible? Demanded Ambassador Silthis, bubbles of agitation streaming from her aquatic suit. Our communication networks span the galaxy. They use quantum entanglement, subspace resonance, even exotic matter channels. No single species should be able to disrupt all of them simultaneously. General Coxmoon's mandibles clicked rapidly as she accessed classified military databases. Unless they have been infiltrating our systems for as long as they claim, 200 years of access would allow them to plant backdoors in every major communication hub. The delegates fell silent as the full scope of humanity's preparation became clear. This wasn't the desperate gambit of a cornered species. This was the culmination of 2 centuries of careful planning and systematic infiltration. Ambassador Vexhi spoke first. We need to consider the possibility that they are telling the truth, complete truth, about the infiltration, the stellar weapons, all of it. The mathematics support it, admitted Zethkar reluctantly. If they began serious preparation 200 years ago, they would have had time to develop the necessary technology and place it strategically throughout our space. But the energy requirements alone, protested Ambassador Krelthok, could be met through careful engineering over extended periods, General Coxmoon finished. We have been thinking in terms of brute force stellar manipulation, but if you had decades to modify each star gradually, introducing quantum-engineered matter at the stellar core level. She trailed off as her tactical computers finished their analysis. The results were terrifying in their simplicity. Given enough time and access, stellar manipulation was not just possible but inevitable. They played us, said Ambassador Silthis quietly. For 2 centuries, they watched and learned and prepared, while we assumed they were primitive and isolated. Zethkar's form began to resonate with harmonics of defeat. The question now is what we do with this knowledge. The chamber's main display activated without input from any of the delegates. Chen's face appeared, her expression as calm and pleasant as ever. Good evening, she said, as if greeting old friends. I hope you have used your time productively. General, Coxmoon leaned forward aggressively. We demand proof of your claims, independent verification of your capabilities. Chen tilted her head slightly, an almost curious expression crossing her features. You have already seen our capabilities demonstrated. The Kepler 442 system no longer exists. One system, Ambassador Vexhi interjected, her scales shifting to aggressive red. One system does not prove you can threaten the entire galaxy. True, Chen agreed mildly. She looked down at something off-screen, presumably her notebook. Current time is 21:37. In 3 minutes, the Rigel 7 system will experience a similar stellar event. Rigel 7 houses approximately 40 million hegemony civilians and serves as a major shipping hub. The delegates frantically activated their monitoring systems, focusing long-range sensors on the Rigel 7 system. They found normal activity, cargo ships moving between planets, civilian traffic following standard patterns, a population going about their evening routines. This is your choice, Chen continued conversationally. Accept our terms and Rigel 7 continues its peaceful existence. Continue to resist, and 40 million people will die in the next few minutes. You cannot be serious, gasped Ambassador Silthis. 40 million innocent lives as a demonstration? Chen's expression remained unchanged. You were prepared to exterminate 8 billion innocent humans. The scale is different, but the principle is identical. Zethkar stepped forward, his crystalline form resonating with desperate harmonics. Wait, please, if we agree to discuss withdrawal, will you cancel the demonstration? Chen appeared to consider this. Discuss withdrawal? No, discussing is what we have been doing for the past day. I need commitment to actual withdrawal. That decision is beyond our authority, General Coxmoon said quickly. We would need to contact our respective governments, obtain authorization. 45 seconds, Chen interrupted, glancing at her watch. The chamber erupted in frantic activity. Delegates shouted into their communication devices, tried to activate emergency channels, attempted to reach anyone with the authority to make binding decisions. But the communication blackout remained in effect. 20 seconds. Ambassador Vex High spoke with desperate urgency. Speaking for the Mordanian Empire, we accept your terms. Complete military withdrawal from all systems containing human populations. 15 seconds. The aquatic domains agree, added Ambassador Silthis rapidly. 10 seconds. The Vorthak hegemony agrees, said Zethkar, his voice carrying the harmonic patterns of formal surrender. General Coxmoon held out until the final moments. 5 seconds. The Hive Collective agrees to your terms. 3, 2, 1. Chen looked up from her watch. Excellent. Rigel 7 will continue to exist. The delegates collapsed into their chairs, exhausted by the intensity of those final seconds. They had just surrendered the greatest military alliance in galactic history in less than a minute. Chen made a note in her off-screen notebook. Now, then let's discuss the details of your withdrawal. All military vessels will power down weapons and begin movement toward your respective borders immediately. Civilian populations may remain, but under human protection and administration. Human administration? Repeated Ambassador Krelthok weakly. Of course. These systems now fall under Terran Republic authority. We will establish governors and administrative staff to ensure smooth transitions. Zethkar's crystalline form had shifted to colors indicating complete defeat. What of our governments? Our existing political structures? Chen's smile was warm and reassuring. They will continue to function naturally, under human oversight to ensure compliance with the new galactic order. The weight of their situation finally settled on the delegates. They had not simply agreed to a ceasefire or negotiated a peace treaty. They had surrendered galactic governance to a species they had dismissed as primitive only hours earlier. Communication blackout will be lifted in 6 hours. Chen continued. That should give you time to prepare appropriate announcements. I suggest emphasizing the peaceful nature of this transition and the benefits of human leadership. She stood up, apparently preparing to end the conversation. Oh, and please remember that we still maintain our stellar modification capabilities. Compliance with the new order is not optional. General Coxmoon found her voice one last time. How do we know you won't simply destroy us anyway, once you have what you want? Chen paused, considering the question seriously. Because genocide is inefficient, General. We need your populations, your knowledge, your industrial capabilities. Dead civilizations produce nothing of value. She gathered her materials. Humanity survived not by destroying our enemies, but by making them serve our interests. The galaxy is much more useful to us alive and productive. The transmission ended, leaving 12 delegates alone with the magnitude of what had just occurred. In less than 72 hours, the entire structure of galactic civilization had been overturned by a species that most of them had never taken seriously. Outside the conference chamber, the stars continued to shine. But now each point of light represented not just a sun but a potential weapon in humanity's arsenal. The age of alien dominance was over. The human era had begun. 6 months after the peace talks, Admiral Sarah Chen sat in her office on Earth, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The transformation had been remarkable in its speed and completeness. Where once 12 proud civilizations had ruled their respective domains, now human governors administered former alien territories with quiet efficiency. Her assistant, Lieutenant Martinez, entered with the daily briefings. "Ma'am, we have compliance reports from all sectors. The Vorthak have completed military withdrawal from the Centauri region. The Hive Collective is ahead of schedule on their industrial conversion projects." Chen nodded, making notes in the same paper notebook she had used during the negotiations. Some habits died hard. "Any resistance movements?" "Nothing significant. The aquatic domains reported some minor protests on their outer worlds, but they were handled locally. Overall, acceptance of the new administration appears to be remarkably high." This was true, though not surprising. When faced with the alternative of stellar annihilation, most populations had embraced human rule with enthusiasm that bordered on desperation. Better to live under alien management than to not live at all. Director Harrison entered the office without knocking, a privilege of rank and long friendship. He dropped into the chair across from Chen's desk and ran his hands through his gray hair. "The Senate Intelligence Committee wants another briefing," he said wearily. "They're asking the same questions again." Chen looked up from her reports. "About the stellar modification technology?" "About whether it actually exists." Harrison leaned back in his chair. "Senator Williams is convinced we're running the most elaborate bluff in human history. He keeps demanding technical specifications, test data, proof of concept beyond the Kepler 442 event." Chen set down her pen and regarded her old friend with amusement. "And what do you tell him?" "What you told me to tell him. That the technology is classified beyond his clearance level, and that asking too many questions about our most sensitive capabilities is a good way to lose his security rating." "But you're wondering too," Chen observed. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. They had known each other for 30 years, served together in 3 different conflicts before the Galactic War. He could read her better than most. "Sarah," he said finally, "I've seen our entire military budget. I know what we spend on research and development. The energy requirements alone for stellar manipulation would bankrupt us. Hell, they'd bankrupt most of the galaxy." Chen opened her notebook and flipped through several pages, as if looking for a specific entry. "Tom, let me ask you something. What do you think would have happened if I had walked into that conference room and told them the truth?" "What truth?" "That humanity had no stellar modification capability at all. That we couldn't destroy a single star, let alone every major system in their territory. That our entire threat was based on one very lucky coincidence, and a lot of carefully managed misinformation." Harrison stared at her. "Sarah, what are you saying?" Chen found the page she was looking for and ran her finger down a list of dates and numbers. Kepler 442 was already scheduled to go unstable. Our deep space monitors detected the preliminary quantum fluctuations 18 months ago. The star was going to undergo helium flash whether we were there or not. The silence that followed was deafening. Harrison opened his mouth several times before any sound came out. "You mean, we had approximately 18 months to plan our entire galactic strategy around a single, naturally occurring stellar event that we knew was coming, but our enemies didn't?" Chen turned several more pages. "The timing had to be perfect. We needed to be in negotiations when the star went critical. We needed to make our threat just minutes before the natural event occurred. We needed to make it look like we had triggered something that was already inevitable." Harrison was pale now, processing the implications. "The quantum signatures your people detected near other stars?" "Background radiation from our deep space monitoring equipment. Completely harmless, but indistinguishable from the energy patterns that preceded the Kepler 442 event if you don't know what to look for. The communication blackouts? Standard military jamming technology, deployed from ships that were already in position throughout their territory. Nothing exotic, just good timing and coordination?" Harrison slumped in his chair. "Jesus, Sarah. You bet the entire future of the human race on a bluff?" Chen closed her notebook and smiled. "Not a bluff, Tom. A calculated risk based on superior intelligence and enemy psychology." She stood up and walked to the window overlooking the city. Earth looked peaceful from this height, But she knew it was a hive of activity as humanity adjusted to its new role as galactic administrators. The aliens made the same mistake that humans have made countless times throughout history. They assumed that superior technology automatically meant superior strategy. They never considered that we might be playing a completely different game. But what happens when they figure it out? Harrison asked urgently. What happens when they realize we can't actually destroy their stars? Chen turned back to face him. They won't figure it out. How can you be so certain? Because we're going to make sure they can't test the theory. Chen walked back to her desk and opened a different section of her notebook. Every time a star goes naturally unstable anywhere in former hegemony space, we're going to claim credit. Every solar flare, every stellar event, every cosmic coincidence becomes proof of our continued capability. She showed him a page covered with astronomical data. Our science teams have identified 47 stars that will experience significant events over the next 50 years. Everything from minor flares to complete collapse. We'll claim responsibility for all of them. Harrison was beginning to understand. And if they try to test you by refusing orders? We select a star that's already scheduled to go critical and give them a deadline that coincides with the natural event. Same strategy, different target. But eventually, they'll want a CO. Demonstration on demand. A star that isn't naturally unstable. Chen's smile was cold. Then we'll give them one. She opened her notebook to a final section, filled with technical diagrams and mathematical equations. Stellar modification technology isn't science fiction, Tom. It's just extremely expensive and time-consuming. We've been working on it for 6 months now, using resources and information seized from our new subjects. You mean you're actually building the capability you claim to have? We're building the capability we need to maintain the illusion. The irony is perfect. We're using the wealth and knowledge of the civilizations we conquered through deception to make that deception into reality. Harrison laughed despite himself. So, the bluff becomes the truth. Exactly. By the time anyone realizes what we actually did, we'll have the genuine capability to do it again, and by then it won't matter anyway. Chen returned to her seat and opened her daily reports. Human governors are being accepted throughout former hegemony space. Our language is being taught in their schools. Our economic systems are being integrated with their infrastructure. In another generation, they won't remember what independence looked like. She made a note about industrial production quotas in the Mordanian sector. The greatest victory isn't destroying your enemies, Tom. It's making them want to serve you. Lieutenant Martinez returned with another stack of reports. Ma'am, we have a request from the Vorthak Education Ministry. They want to include human history in their standard curriculum. Approved, Chen said without looking up. Make sure they emphasize humanity's patience and long-term planning capabilities. After Martinez left, Harrison asked one final question. Sarah, were you ever actually worried? During the negotiations, I mean. Did you ever think they might call your bluff? Chen finished reading a production report and closed the folder. Every single second, Tom. But that's what made it believable. I was genuinely terrified that they would test us, and that terror came through in every word I spoke. They read it as confidence in our ability to destroy them. She looked out the window again, watching human shuttles ferry alien delegations to various meetings throughout the city. Fear and confidence look surprisingly similar from the outside. The trick is making sure your enemies can't tell the difference. Director Harrison stood up to leave, still shaking his head in amazement. The most successful military operation in human history, and it was all smoke and mirrors. Chen picked up her pen and opened her notebook to a fresh page. Not smoke and mirrors, Tom. Just superior understanding of the game we were really playing. They thought it was about technology and firepower, but it was always about psychology and timing. As Harrison reached the door, she called after him. And Tom, make sure the Intelligence Committee understands that asking too many questions about our capabilities could compromise operational security. Some secrets need to stay secret, even from us. After he left, Chen sat alone in her office, surrounded by reports from across the galaxy. Every page represented another small victory in the ongoing campaign to transform human dominance from illusion into reality. She made one final note in her book. Day 184 of the human era. Status. On schedule. Outside. Her window. Alien children played in Earth's parks while their parents attended integration seminars.
Admiral John Carter stood at the large window of Earth Space Station Alpha, watching the alien ship approach. It was unlike anything humans had ever built. Smooth, curved, and glowing with a soft blue light. The ship was 5 times bigger than Earth's largest vessel. "They're ready to dock, sir," said Lieutenant Mary Cole from her station. Carter nodded. His stomach felt tight. This meeting would change human history forever. 3 months ago, humanity had successfully tested its first faster-than-light drive. Just 2 weeks later, alien signals had arrived, followed by this massive ship. The Galactic Council, they called themselves. A group of alien species who governed most of the known galaxy. Carter straightened his uniform and walked to the docking bay with Mary and 4 other officers. Security teams lined the walls, nervous but professional. The airlock hissed open. 7 different alien species walked through. Carter tried not to stare. The leader was tall and thin like a praying mantis, with 4 arms and large, complex eyes. Behind it came beings of all shapes, one like a floating jellyfish, another resembling a furry lizard walking on 2 legs. Admiral Carter, the mantis-like being, spoke through a translator device. "I am Ambassador Zixlar of the Galactic Council. We come with peaceful intentions." Carter stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth Space Station Alpha. I represent the United Earth Defense Fleet." The meeting room was prepared with special chairs to accommodate the various alien bodies. Scientists and diplomats from Earth joined them, including Lisa Reeves, Earth's top diplomat. "We were surprised by your development of faster-than-light travel," said Zixlar. "Most species require guidance to achieve this technology." Lisa Reeves smiled politely. "Humans have always been resourceful." Zixlar's large eyes blinked. "Indeed, that is why we are here. The galaxy is a complex place with many dangers. The Council offers protection and guidance to developing species like yours." For 6 hours, the aliens explained their proposal. Earth would join the Galactic Council as a protectorate member. They would receive technology, protection, and limited trading rights. When the aliens left for their ship to allow the humans time to review the full treaty, Carter, Reeves, and the Earth team gathered in a secure room. Reeves pointed to specific sections on her tablet. "These terms are concerning. Section 12 limits our military ships to 50, all under Council supervision. Section 24 restricts our colonies to our immediate solar system," added Dr. Ben Walsh, reading further. Carter frowned. "And they want full access to all our technology and research." "This isn't a treaty between equals," said Reeves. "It's a list of restrictions designed to keep us controlled." The next day, when the Council representatives returned, they seemed confident. "We have reviewed your treaty," said Carter. Zixlar's body language showed anticipation. The Council had never been rejected before. In 3,000 years, every species had accepted their terms. "Earth must respectfully decline," Carter said firmly. The room went silent. The jellyfish-like alien actually changed color. "Perhaps you misunderstand the benefits," Zixlar began. Lisa Reeves stepped forward. "We understand perfectly. But humans will not accept limitations on our growth or sovereignty. We propose instead open diplomatic relations as equals." "Equals?" The furry lizard alien made a sound like a laugh. "Your species has barely left its solar system." Carter smiled. "True, but we got there ourselves, and we'll go further the same way." He stood taller. "Unless the Council wishes to pursue a relationship of mutual respect, we have nothing more to discuss." As the aliens departed, clearly flustered, Carter watched their ship from the window again. "Did we make a mistake?" asked Mary, standing beside him. "No," said Carter. "We just showed the galaxy that humanity won't be controlled." He turned to her with determination in his eyes. "And that might be the most important message we ever send." The great council chamber on Centauri Prime buzzed with nervous voices. Hundreds of aliens from over 30 species sat in curved rows that rose up like a giant bowl. At the center stood Elder Thoxpa, a being made of living crystal who had seen over 400 years of galactic politics. "Silence," called Thoxpa, and the chamber grew quiet. "We face an unprecedented situation." On the large screen behind him appeared an image of Earth. Humans have rejected our standard treaty, continued Foxva. This has never happened in Council history. Ambassador Zixlar stepped forward. I led the first contact team. Humans are unusual. They developed faster than light travel without any guidance. Their history shows a pattern of conflict, yet they have survived several near-extinction events. Are they dangerous? Asked a small blue alien from the third row. All independent species are potentially dangerous, replied Zixlar. But humans show concerning levels of independence. They question everything. Ambassador Krell, a large reptilian being covered in dark scales, rose from his seat. His species, the Vorn, were known for their military power within the Council. We should contain them now, Krell said, his voice deep and threatening. Any species that rejects Council authority cannot be trusted. Many Council members nodded in agreement. We should study them further, countered Zixlar. Hasty action could be unwise. Just then, the chamber doors opened. A human walked in, causing whispers to spread through the room. It was Sam Miller, recently appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the stars. Forgive my interruption, said Sam with a confident smile. Earth has sent me to present our counter-proposal. Foxva's crystal body flashed with surprise colors. Counter-proposal. This is irregular. Sam was given permission to speak. He stood at the center of the chamber, looking small but unafraid among the alien representatives. Earth appreciates the Council's offer, Sam began. But we propose an alternative. Earth will join the Galactic Council as a full and equal member, with the same rights as founding species. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. No new species had ever demanded equal standing immediately upon joining. Impossible, shouted Krell. Your species is barely 200,000 years old. Some council members have histories spanning millions of years. Sam remained calm. Age does not determine worth, Ambassador Krell. Humanity offers fresh perspectives and innovative solutions. What do humans bring to the council that we don't already have? Asked another alien representative. Adaptability, answered Sam. In our short history, humans have faced countless challenges and overcome them all. We learn quickly and think differently. These qualities have value. Elder Foxva studied the human with interest. Your proposal will need to be considered carefully. It has no precedent. Take all the time you need, said Sam. Meanwhile, Earth continues to develop its space program and establish colonies in nearby star systems. This announcement caused another wave of concern among the council members. Most new species waited for council approval before expanding. After Sam left, the council debated for hours. Zixlar reviewed human history for the assembly, showing how these beings had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and environmental disasters. They adapt and grow stronger with each challenge, Zixlar concluded. This makes them unpredictable. Elder Foxva's crystal form pulsed with deep thought. In 3,000 years of council history, we have incorporated 217 species into our union. All accepted our guidance and protection. None have ever demanded equality from the start. Ambassador Krell growled. Because they are arrogant and dangerous, we should act now, while they are still limited to a small region of space. No, decided Foxva. We will create a new treaty, one that appears more generous but still ensures proper control. Humans must be guided into the correct place within our galactic order. But as the meeting ended, many council members felt uneasy. Something about these humans was different, and for the first time in centuries, the Great Galactic Council felt afraid. General Alice Blackwood walked through the heavy security doors of Earth Defense Command. The underground facility was built deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, safe from orbital scans. Her footsteps echoed in the corridor as she made her way to the Intelligence Division. Major Frank Daniels waited for her in a room with no windows. On the table lay a folder marked Top Secret. The alien finally talked, asked Blackwood. Daniels nodded. Yes, General. 3 days of comfortable treatment and respectful questions worked better than any pressure would have. 2 months ago, Earth security forces had captured an alien observer during an unauthorized landing near Chicago. The being, called a Narvet, had been collecting information about human military capabilities. Instead of treating the alien as a prisoner, Earth had treated it as an honored guest who had simply broken protocol. "Show me what we learned," ordered Blackwood. Daniels activated the wall screen. The Narvet was surprisingly open once it realized we meant no harm. "It seems the entire council structure is built on one principle: control." The screen showed historical records from a dozen alien worlds. "The founding council species evolved as prey animals on their home worlds," continued Daniels. "Their natural instinct is to avoid conflict through rules and structure. When they encountered aggressive species in space, they developed a system to contain them." Blackwood studied the information. "So they're afraid of us." "Terrified would be more accurate, General," replied Daniels. "Their historical records show multiple extinction events caused by warlike species. Their treaties aren't diplomatic documents. They're control mechanisms. And they've never been rejected before," mused Blackwood. "Never. Our refusal doesn't fit their understanding of how developing species should behave." Daniels switched the display to show council military assets. "They have impressive technology, but their combat doctrine is weak. They haven't fought a real war in thousands of years." Blackwood studied the data carefully. "Their ships are advanced, but their tactics are basic. They rely on overwhelming numbers, not strategy." "Exactly," said Daniels. "And there's something else." He pulled up a new file. The Narvet mentioned something called void entities at the galaxy's edge. The Council is monitoring them with great concern. A potential threat. One they've been hiding from newer species. Apparently, these void entities have destroyed several outer colonies. The Council is afraid, but doesn't know how to fight them. Blackwood walked to the large map of human space on the wall. In the 3 months since first contact, humanity had doubled its shipbuilding efforts and accelerated its expansion to nearby stars. "We don't want war with the Council," she said quietly, "but we won't accept being controlled either." "What's our next move?" asked Daniels. Blackwood pointed to several star systems on the map. "We continue expanding our defensive perimeter. We establish colonies here, here, and here. We develop better shields based on the technology we've observed from their ships." A young officer entered with a message. "General, the Council has sent a new diplomatic team. They're requesting a meeting to present a revised treaty." Blackwood shared a knowing look with Daniels. "Right on schedule. Let's see what kind of control they're trying to establish this time." Later that day, in her private office, Blackwood reviewed the defense readiness reports. Earth now had 27 warships with faster-than-light capability. Not enough to win a war against the Council's vast fleets, but enough to make any attack costly. On her desk sat the personal files of Admiral Carter and Ambassador Miller. Both were doing excellent work representing humanity among the stars. But it was Blackwood's job to prepare for the worst while they hoped for the best. "We come in peace," she said to herself, repeating the message humanity had broadcast to the stars. Then she added quietly, "But we come prepared." Outside her window, new recruits trained in the use of adapted alien technology. Humanity was learning quickly, perhaps too quickly for the Council's comfort. Ambassador Diane Wong sat at the large glass table, her face calm despite the tension in the room. Across from her, 3 alien representatives waited for Earth's response to their second treaty proposal. This meeting took place on the neutral space station orbiting Mars, a new facility built to host diplomatic talks. Wong had spent 3 days reviewing the document with her team. The Council had been clever this time. The military restrictions were less obvious, hidden behind friendly offers of protection and joint patrols. "We appreciate the Council's revised proposal," Wong said, her voice steady. "However, Earth must again decline." The lead alien, the blue-skinned being named Trill, blinked its 4 eyes rapidly. "Ambassador Wong, perhaps you misunderstand the benefits we offer. The trade routes alone would increase Earth's prosperity by 30%. Wong smiled politely. The benefits are clear, Ambassador Trill, but so are the costs. She highlighted several sections on her tablet. These trade agreements would make Earth dependent on Council resources within 5 years. These technology exchanges require us to share all our innovations while receiving only selected Council technologies in return. Trill's skin darkened slightly. Such arrangements protect developing worlds from advancing too quickly. It is for your benefit. Earth will determine what benefits Earth, replied Wong firmly. We remain open to equal partnership, but not to controlled integration. After the aliens departed, Wong contacted Earth Defense Command. General Blackwood's face appeared on the secure screen. They didn't take the rejection well, Wong reported. Their body language showed genuine confusion. They don't understand why we keep saying no. Blackwood nodded. Their psychology can't comprehend our desire for independence. It frightens them. What's our next move? Keep communication open. Meanwhile, we've got something they need to see. On Centauri Prime, the Council's central meeting chamber was in chaos. High Counselor Vexrel, an ancient being with tentacles and eyes that saw beyond normal space, called for order. Our intelligence reports are confirmed, Vexrel announced. Humans have established 3 new colonies beyond their solar system without Council approval. Worse, they have developed shield technology similar to our own in just 4 months. Ambassador Zixlar stepped forward. This rate of adaptation is unprecedented. They are studying our technology and improving upon it. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, showing human ships with new weapon systems. The design was different from Council vessels, but clearly incorporated alien principles. How is this possible? Asked Ambassador Krell. Their minds should not be able to understand our science so quickly. Human brains form connections differently, explained the Council's chief scientist. They make creative leaps that our species find difficult. High Counselor Vexrel's tentacles waved in agitation. Twice we have offered them the standard path to membership. Twice they have rejected our wisdom. Our models cannot predict their behavior. The chamber fell silent as Vexrel continued. For the first time in Council history, I recommend we consider a preemptive security action. The human expansion must be contained before it threatens galactic stability. Back on Earth, President William Harding reviewed the latest defense preparations in the White House Situation Room. Holographic displays showed Earth's growing fleet and new colony sites. Our intelligence suggests the Council is growing increasingly concerned, reported General Blackwood. They may be considering military options. President Harding frowned. We've done nothing threatening. We've merely refused to be controlled. To the Council, independence itself is threatening, explained Blackwood. They've governed through control for 3,000 years. We're the first species to say no and mean it. Can we defend ourselves if they attack? Asked the President. Admiral Carter nodded. Not against their full force, but we can make any action against us extremely costly. They know this. We want peace, said President Harding, looking at the star map showing humanity's position in the galaxy. But we're prepared for the alternative. There's one more thing, added Blackwood. Our deep space monitors have detected unusual energy signatures from beyond the Orion Arm. They match what our Narvit visitor described as void entities. The President's eyes narrowed. So the threat the Council fears is real. Perhaps this is an opportunity. Sir, if they won't accept us as equals, maybe they'll accept us as protectors. Council military strategist Urkon, a six-limbed being with silver skin, stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Security Committee. His presentation showed detailed maps of human expansion throughout the nearby star systems. Humans are expanding faster than any species we have encountered, said Urkon. They have established 12 colonies in just 3 years. Their ships now patrol this entire region. The committee members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Elder Thoxva's crystal form pulsed with worried colors. What about their weapons? Asked Ambassador Krell. Urkon changed the display to show a human battleship. Their vessels are now armed with energy weapons our sensors cannot fully analyze. They appear to have taken our basic shield technology and modified it in ways our scientists don't fully understand. Impossible, said a committee member. No species could adapt our technology so quickly. Humans are different, replied Erkan simply. They think differently. They take risks we would never consider. Just then, a messenger entered the chamber and whispered to Elder Thoxvay. The elder's colors shifted to shock. A human diplomatic vessel has just arrived, announced Foxpa. They are requesting an immediate audience. When Ambassador Karen Lee entered the chamber, many council members had never seen a human in person before. She was shorter than most alien representatives, but walked with confidence that made the room take notice. Thank you for seeing me without appointment, said Lee, bowing slightly to Elder Thoxpa. Earth sends greetings and a proposal that cannot wait. The council members looked at each other with suspicion. Humans had rejected 2 treaties already. What proposal could be so urgent? Asked Foxvay. Lee activated a small device. A hologram appeared showing strange energy patterns. These readings were captured by our deep space monitoring stations at the edge of the Orion Arm. We believe they match what you call the void entities. The chamber went completely silent. The void entities were the Council's most closely guarded secret, mysterious beings from the darkness between galaxies that had destroyed several outer colonies. How could they know about the void entities? Whispered Elder Thoxpa to Ambassador Zixlar. More importantly, replied Zixlar quietly, why would they offer to help us against a threat that has the entire Council terrified? Lee continued speaking. Earth proposes a mutual defense agreement. Our ships will help patrol the borders of Council space. Together, we can defend against this common threat. Ambassador Krell stood up angrily. This is a trick. Humans seek to learn our defensive capabilities. Lee turned to face him calmly. If we wanted to learn your defenses, we wouldn't need to offer help. Our intelligence gathering has been quite effective already. This statement sent another wave of shock through the chamber. What Ambassador Lee means, Zixlar quickly added, trying to calm the situation, is that information sharing benefits everyone. Exactly, said Lee with a smile. We know about the attacks on your outer colonies. We know the Council's standard military doctrine has been ineffective against these entities. Humans have a different approach to combat that might help. Elder Thoxpa studied the human carefully. Why would Earth help defend Council space when you have rejected membership twice? Because the void entities won't stop at Council borders, Lee replied. Earth understands that some threats require cooperation, even between different political systems. We don't need to be under your control to be your allies. The concept seemed to confuse many council members. In their experience, control and alliance were the same thing. We need time to consider this proposal, said Elder Thoxpa finally. Of course, replied Lee, but I should mention, our sensors suggest the void entity's movements have accelerated in the past month. Time may be something we don't have much of. As Ambassador Lee left the chamber, the council erupted in debate. Some saw the human offer as genuine, others as a clever trap. But all agreed on one thing. Humans continued to behave in ways their models could not predict. And nothing frightened the Galactic Council more than unpredictability. Junior Council member Drav paced in his private chamber. The young Telnarian had only joined the Council 3 years ago, but he had already formed a faction of like-minded representatives who believed the old ways were too soft. The humans needed to be shown their place in the galactic order. The Council talks while humans grow stronger each day, Drav said to his 5 supporters gathered in the room. Ambassador Lee's proposal is clearly meant to divide us. What do you suggest? Asked Mira, a feathered being who controlled a significant military force. Drav activated a holographic display showing a human colony on Proxima Centauri b. This is their most important outer settlement. It houses their new weapons research facility. My sources confirm it is still lightly defended as they focus on their other colonies. The full council would never approve an attack, warned another member. Which is why we won't ask for approval, replied Drav. A small containment action, using our personal security forces, will show humans that defiance has consequences. Once it's done, the Council will have no choice but to support our actions." The group nodded in agreement, not realizing that this decision would change the galaxy forever. 3 days later, Admiral Ryan Douglas of Earth's Third Fleet was reviewing reports in his office aboard the flagship Unity when alarms blared throughout the ship. "Admiral," his communications officer called urgently, "we're receiving emergency signals from Proxima Colony. They're under attack." Douglas rushed to the command center. The tactical display showed 12 alien vessels firing on the colony's defensive systems. "Those are Council ships," said his second-in-command. Douglas's face hardened. "Alert all ships in the fleet. Set course for Proxima at maximum speed." Before the orders could be carried out, another officer called out, "Sir, the quantum communications network just detected energy buildups in the attacking fleet 8 hours ago. Defense Command has already dispatched response units." Douglas watched in amazement as the tactical display updated. 6 human stealth vessels suddenly appeared around the attacking Council ships. They had been there waiting, having detected the attack preparations through Earth's new quantum entanglement communication system that allowed instant transmission of information across any distance. What happened next stunned even the experienced admiral. The human vessels deployed a new weapon system that targeted the propulsion units of the alien ships with pinpoint accuracy. Within minutes, all 12 Council vessels were disabled but completely intact, with no alien casualties. "Defense Command reports the situation is contained," said the communications officer. "No human casualties. All attackers disabled and crews captured." Back on Centauri Prime, the main Council chamber had descended into chaos. The emergency session had been called the moment the attack was detected, but events had moved too quickly. "How did they know?" shouted Ambassador Krell. "How were they waiting for our ships?" Elder Thoxva's crystal form pulsed with anger. "Who authorized this attack?" This was not approved by the full Council. Drav and his supporters sat in stunned silence. Their containment action had been neutralized before it even properly began. The chamber's main screen activated without warning. President William Harding's face appeared, his expression serious but controlled. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began, "an unprovoked attack was just made against a peaceful Earth colony. Our response was measured and precise. No lives were lost on either side." The Council members watched in shocked silence. "We have captured your vessels and crews," continued Harding. "They will be treated well and returned safely. But know this, Earth came to this galaxy in peace. We still desire peace, but we will not be subjugated or attacked." His eyes seemed to meet each Council member's gaze through the screen. "Your move, Councilors." When the transmission ended, the chamber remained silent for several long moments. Finally, Ambassador Zixlor spoke. "The humans could have destroyed those ships and killed everyone aboard. Instead, they disabled them with no casualties. That was not the action of a warlike species. Their technology is far more advanced than they revealed," said Elder Thoxva quietly. "They have been watching us while we thought we were watching them." For the first time in the Council's long history, they faced a species they could neither predict nor control. And the realization was terrifying. Dr. Olivia Parker bent over her desk, surrounded by alien historical texts and biological data. As Earth's leading xenoanthropologist, she had been studying Council species for months, trying to understand why relations remained so strained despite humanity's peaceful intentions. "I think I've found it," she said to herself, excitement building as connections formed in her mind. She quickly called for an emergency meeting with the joint Earth Council diplomatic team that had formed after the Proxima incident. 2 hours later, she stood before a mixed group of humans and aliens in a conference room aboard the orbital diplomatic station. "The problem isn't political," Parker explained, displaying images of the home worlds of various Council species. "It's biological and cultural. Every founding Council species evolved as prey animals on their home planets. The room went quiet as both humans and aliens considered this statement. Their evolutionary psychology is fundamentally different from ours, Parker continued. Humans evolved as persistent hunters who faced danger head-on. Council species evolved to detect threats early and avoid confrontation whenever possible. Ambassador Zixlar's large eyes blinked rapidly. This is true, though we rarely discuss it with outsider species. Parker nodded. Your entire council structure is built around containing threats through rules and control. But humans see rules as guidelines that sometimes need to be broken. We value independence and self-determination above stability. This explains much, said Elder Thoxva, who had joined the meeting remotely. Your rejection of our treaties wasn't aggression as we feared. It was simply your natural desire for freedom. Exactly, replied Parker. And your desire to control us wasn't malicious. It was your natural response to a potential threat. Based on this new understanding, Earth's diplomatic approach changed dramatically. Rather than attempting to negotiate with the full council, Ambassador Greg Peterson's team began establishing direct relations with individual member species. The Tellarites are interested in our agricultural methods, Peterson told President Harding during a secure briefing. The Norva want our help developing new medicine. Each species has needs that Earth can meet without requiring their submission. And they're willing to bypass council protocols, asked Harding. That's the surprising part, Peterson replied. Many species have quietly chafed under council restrictions for centuries, but were too afraid to object. Our example has inspired them. Within weeks, Earth had signed independent treaties with 7 council species. Each agreement was unique, addressing specific needs and offering protection, resources, and technological exchange without demanding control. Council unity began to fracture as more species sought direct relations with humans. The diplomatic corps operated with a new directive created by Peterson. Understand their fears, address their needs, demonstrate our reliability. On the colony world New Terra, human and Tellarate scientists worked side by side developing crops that could grow in both environments. In orbit around Jupiter, human engineers helped Norvan medical researchers establish a new facility that would benefit both species. They're still afraid of us, Peterson explained to his team. But they're beginning to see that working with humans offers more benefits than trying to control us. Not everyone supported this new approach. A faction led by Ambassador Krell continued to push for stricter measures against Earth. Junior Council member Drav had been removed from his position after the failed attack, but his supporters remained powerful. Meanwhile, the Void entity signals continued to grow stronger. Earth and its new allies increased their monitoring of the galactic rim, sharing data and preparing defenses. In her lab, Dr. Parker continued studying council psychology. The irony, she told a colleague, is that their fear of us might save them from a much worse threat. How so? Asked the colleague. Because humans don't run from danger, Parker replied. We run toward it. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the Council has allies who aren't afraid to fight. 10 years had passed since humans first encountered the Galactic Council. The Grand Conference Hall on Earth's moon, Luna, was filled with representatives from over 50 alien species. The massive dome overhead revealed the stars and Earth hanging in the black sky, a beautiful blue jewel. Admiral John Carter, now Earth's senior representative, stood beside the new council leader, Ambassador Zixlar. Together, they prepared to sign the charter creating the Interstellar Cooperative, replacing the old Galactic Council structure. If someone had told me 10 years ago we would be standing here as equals, I would not have believed them, said Zixlar, his voice carrying through the hall's perfect acoustics. Change is hard, replied Carter, but necessary. The past decade had transformed galactic politics. After Dr. Parker's breakthrough understanding of council psychology, relations had improved steadily. Earth had formed direct partnerships with 32 council species. These relationships had proven so successful that even species loyal to the old council structure began to question the need for strict control protocols. Ambassador Krell and his supporters had resisted at first, even attempting a military coup against the council leadership. But with human support, Elder Thoxpa had maintained order, and Krell had eventually been removed from power. Zixlar addressed the assembled representatives. Today we acknowledge a new way forward. The old council was built on fear and control. The new cooperative is built on mutual respect and common goals. Carter nodded and added, "We feared what we did not understand." The council approached space with caution born from their evolutionary history. Humans approached it with the boldness of explorers. Both perspectives have value. "The council believed your rejection of our treaties was aggression," admitted Zixlar. "We now understand it was simply self-determination. And we mistook your caution for hostility," replied Carter, "when it was wisdom born from experience." Together they signed the charter, which guaranteed independence for all member species while establishing common defense, trade, and scientific cooperation. Each representative then added their signature, marking a new age in galactic history. As the ceremony concluded, an urgent message arrived. The large display at the front of the hall activated, showing a tactical officer from the Joint Defense Fleet. "Priority alert to all cooperative members," announced the officer. "We have confirmed void entity activity in Sector 87. 3 ships have been lost. The entities are moving into populated systems." Carter and Zixlar exchanged glances. For years, they had prepared for this moment, building defenses and creating joint response plans. "All defense fleets, move to your assigned positions," ordered Zixlar without hesitation. "Activate the quantum shield network," added Carter. Throughout the hall, representatives hurried to coordinate their planet's responses. There was no panic, only organized action. The new cooperative had been designed with this threat in mind. In space, a joint human council fleet moved into position at the edge of the threatened sector. Ships of various designs formed a united defensive line. The lead vessel, commanded by Admiral Douglas, carried weapons systems developed through the combined knowledge of 20 different species. On Luna, Carter and Zixlar moved to the command center below the conference hall. Holographic displays showed the approaching void entities, dark, shifting forms that seemed to bend light around them. "Are we ready for this?" asked a nervous representative from a small council world. "Together, we are," replied Carter with calm confidence. Zixlar turned to the human admiral. "The species that we feared most has become our greatest ally, just when the galaxy needed it most." Carter smiled slightly. "Perhaps that was destiny. Your wisdom and our courage combined against a common threat." As the defense fleet engaged the first void entities, the newly signed charter glowed on the display behind them. The top line read, "We stand together, independent yet united, to face whatever challenges the universe presents." The species that had once feared each other now faced a real threat side by side. And for the first time in galactic history, both humans and council species felt the strength that came from true cooperation rather than control.